Hello, I'm Gerald Barney, president of Our Task. Our group organized a conference this summer called Our Earth, Our Future, and one of the highlights of it was the keynote address by Aurelia Khorsand. And Aurelia is here with us today and is going to repeat some of the things and insights that she had for the conference. Aurelia, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Well, as Jerry said, my name is Aurelia Massoudi-Khorsand, and I am the intern coordinator for Our Task this summer. And right now, I'd like to introduce to you the hopes and fears of the younger generation. It is a reminder of what is at stake. What is at stake is literally our future, and those who are inheriting this future that we are mapping out today, our youth. Our prospective inheritance is not perfect and nowhere near ideal. And while we young people are going to inherit the earth with all of its issues, we don't know what to do or how to solve these problems. We are here because we have questions and we want to learn from our mentors. But first, I would like to share with you what our hopes and fears actually are. So, what do you think is the matter with this inheritance, and what do we think is going wrong? Well, to begin with, there is something fundamentally wrong with the global system. Events and disasters are occurring today that have never occurred before in history. Thoughtful young people are very concerned. We turn on the news each night and we open the paper each morning and we are blasted with updates on the oil disaster in the Gulf, wars overseas, high unemployment rates, and even murders in our own backyards. As if it wasn't bad enough, we are facing astonishingly grave predictions for our future. By 2030, global energy demand will have increased by 50%, with over 80% of that energy expected to come from fossil fuels, according to the International Energy Agency. Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere are still rising, and an increase in fossil fuel production and utilization will only make matters worse. Higher CO2 levels create warmer climates, resulting in hotter temperatures, altered growing seasons, dried up riverbeds, droughts, heat waves, and with the melting of the ice caps, rises in sea levels. Sea level rises alone will displace millions of people, meaning millions of refugees that those farther inland will be called upon to support. Our finite resources are being depleted at alarming rates. Water scarcity is already a prevalent issue in many parts of the world. Then there is the issue of land degradation and soil erosion. Even our trees are disappearing as deforestation continues on and on. Our animals are disappearing too. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment states that there is expected to be a 1,000 to 10,000-fold increase in species extinctions, whereas last century it was only 50 to 100-fold. This prospect isn't sustainable. Young people wonder, how much longer can we expect to go on like we are doing now, putting all of these burdens on a planet that cannot sustain them? Well, to help us understand this problem of sustainability, a visual indicator has been developed called the Ecological Footprint. The Ecological Footprint measures how much of Earth's biocapacity we need for our resource production and waste absorption. The maximum biocapacity we can appropriate is that of the entire planet, one Earth, which we represent with the blue circle. Naturally, this is all we have. So how has our footprint changed over time? Well, in 1960, our collective ecological footprint was half an Earth, so to speak, a safe and sustainable demand on biocapacity. This was just 50 years ago. By 1987, we had reached the maximum possible footprint of one Earth. In just 27 years after 1960, we had reached capacity. Skip ahead 30 years from there. By 2007, we had grown to a footprint estimated at 1.3 Earths. This means that we are using resources and generating wastes that would require 1.3 Earths to sustain. That was 3 years ago. What's our footprint now? Put simply, a footprint larger than one Earth means we are living beyond our means. We are using more biocapacity than Earth can continue to provide. We are undermining the inheritance that young people have always hoped for: a stable climate, clean water and air, productive land, renewable and reliable energy, and other ecological necessities that we all depend on. This overuse of biocapacity also has implications for violence and conflict, our very own security. Who will get these finite resources and how? We are facing a future of resource wars and a situation where there will never be enough for all. There could be wars over oil, water, land, and food, everything that many of us take for granted now. This graph illustrates our present situation. It shows the population of the world across the bottom, arranged with the richest countries at the left and the poorest at the right. Notice that there are only about 1 billion wealthy people with per capita incomes ranging from $30,000 to $70,000. So, as I mentioned, the ecological footprint of our combined economy, wealthy and poor, is an unsustainable 1.3 Earths. So, what can we do to address inequity? Well, one assumed possibility would be to eliminate inequity by growing everyone up to levels of consumption and waste of the rich, which many young people see as our current goal. This option is illustrated by the red line in the graph. In fact, this is not a possibility because it would result in an ecological footprint of about 6 Earths. In short, Earth cannot sustain all of us consuming and wasting as the rich do now. But there is another possibility. Perhaps we could eliminate poverty and inequity if we all lived with enough and we lived sustainably. Enough for a good quality of life, but not enough for excess and waste. The red line in this graph illustrates this general concept. The poor would grow to stronger economies and thus a larger ecological footprint. The wealthy would scale back their ecological footprint and economies by eliminating their inefficiencies and wasteful practices to allow for this increase by the poor. Overall, the footprint would be reduced to 1 Earth or even less. The location and shape of this red line are uncertain, as are the mechanisms for achieving such a change, but the principles are clear. We humans must bring our collective ecological footprint down safely below 1 Earth, and we must also address the poverty and inequity in the world. This means that the 1 billion or so wealthiest will need to drastically reduce their waste and footprint to allow for the poor. To fail means social chaos and conflict and ecological disaster for our generation. So we cannot waste as we do now. But how can we get to having a footprint of only 1 Earth? What is being done? You see a world that is still acting as if there are no limits to growth. As a global community, we should be actively trying to find solutions to solve these problems, but we're not a global community by any means. So why not? Why aren't we a global community? Why, as a people of Earth, have we allowed these issues to continue? Well, maybe it's the way that the world measures success. The way society measures success is by growth, economic growth. Continuous and indefinite economic growth is not realistic, however, as we have seen how many Earths that would require. There are limits to growth. Every country in the world cannot live like the United States does. It's just not sustainable. We have always assumed that wealth could grow forever. If it can't, that's going to change things. Our entire system is based on the hypothesis of infinite growth. Will our system shatter if that's proven to be false? Another thing to consider is the collective action problem, a political theory that describes a yet unsolved human condition. The collective action problem occurs when a large group of people would benefit greatly from cooperating to solving a certain issue, but they fail to do so because coordinating their efforts are hard to do. A prime example is climate disruption. The entire global population would benefit if climate disruption was reversed, but getting the global population to coordinate their efforts and work towards this common goal has proven to be nearly impossible. In addition, no one country wants to bear the costs of organization or even significantly take the lead. It's better to free ride, that is, receive benefits from what another actor is doing without bearing the costs themselves. Unfortunately, no one has significantly stepped up to the plate to bear these costs. And what about the intangible causes of societal issues? Can we blame these huge issues on ignorance, denial, or even lack of knowledge? For sure, they contribute to the sticky situation in certain cases, but stepping back and putting these things into perspective, can we really blame a specific country, people, or even concept or attitude? Can we blame these global problems on ignorance or denial? Or can we even blame anyone anymore? Pointing fingers hasn't been the silver bullet solution that we are looking for. In fact, it has proven to be a stalemate, and youth are ready to move on. So, given all of these problems, what is it that we want to happen? Well, we want to start creating a world that we are proud to inherit. So what kind of world is this then? Well, we say, let's start with a different measure of success. As I said before, most communities measure success economically with gross domestic product. But there are other ways to measure a nation's success. My personal favorite example of measuring success is in the Bhutan, a country where success is not measured by GDP, but GNH, gross national happiness. Can you imagine being successful not by how much money you have, or how big your car is, or how fantastic your house is, but by how happy you are? GNH measures happiness by looking at your health, education, well-being, culture, and even living standard, just to name a few. GNH remembers that people are just that, people, who have emotions and all essentially just want to be happy. GNH even takes the environment into account, like the ecological footprint. What if we measured the happiness of people and the earth together? If we based our future decisions on how it would affect the well-being of people and earth, we could be a world of peace and harmony with a mutually enhancing relationship between people and the planet on which we live and depend on. But what else do youth want to see? Well, we want to see green communities with white roofs. We want clean and renewable energy sources that don't hurt us or our planet. We want to stop sending children to the hospital because the cleaning chemicals used in our houses are so toxic they give them cancer. We want to be able to go on safaris in Africa and see animals like rhinos or elephants, species that are currently endangered, in multitudes roaming free. We want to see countries working together like never before to eliminate poverty and world hunger, epidemics that have not yet been cured. We want people to stop denying climate change and environmental catastrophes and poverty just because those problems don't affect those in denial directly. We want age-old feuds that we will have to inherit to end peacefully. We want, finally and truly, world peace. This is our vision. This is what we want to see and what we want to make happen now. We are letting go of our world, the deep down connection we have with our earth. We have to grab hold of it again and make things right before we are lost beyond all hope of returning to what once was. Young people want a change. There is no longer any room in this world for selfishness, but there is still room for miracles. Let all of us be the generations of miracles. We want everyone to stop looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and start looking at the beauty of the rainbow itself instead. We want people to understand what is truly important: our family, our friends, and our earth. We need to stop defining ourselves as nations set forth by arbitrary lines on a map and see ourselves instead as citizens of Earth, a global people who not only have global responsibilities, but peace, joy, and community. It's not easy, but neither is it impossible. So what can we do? Well, we young people don't know what to do. These are huge problems, but we want to have a conversation to begin to understand how we can start coming up with solutions. A dialogue is where this needs to start. We young people want this conversation to be in an intergenerational dialogue. We need adults for the experience, finances, and power that they have now, but adults can't do it alone. We need youth for the visions, the motivation, the inspiration, and the dreams. Look around your community. The young people you see there are going to be the leaders of the future, and we have our own visions that are developed and shaped by the older generations, our mentors. So let's begin these changes today. Don't be afraid to share your ideas with others, because your ideas will shape the future.
Aurelia, thank you very much for all those insights and passion and vision about the future. I share your hope that we can have an intergenerational dialogue and that together all of us, all the people on the planet, can overcome some of this inertia and really come together to help your generation to achieve a peaceful and sustainable future for all.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much for being with us
Thank
today
you.
and that lovely speech.
Thank you.